The bodies of the 16 heroes were interned in a building known as the Feldenhalle, or Temple of Honor. It would become a Nazi shrine. During this annual ceremony, the names of the 16 were called out, with anonymous voices answering the heroes' roll call, as if the dead marched in spirit with the living.
And when I was about 16, 17, my father took me to Munich, and I went to this Feldherrnhalle, and there the coffins were all lined up, and there were guards standing, presenting their rifles and steel helmets, and it was all rather eerie. In so many interviews, the names were mentioned, and they said, Friedrich Müller, and then a voice said, here. And then the next name, Hermann Stammer. It was a religious ceremony.
With the rituals of his new religion in place, Hitler unleashed the next step of his plan. He wrote, "Force without spiritual foundation is doomed to failure."
It is a nationalism which determines everything. Your whole lifestyle, yes? Your whole thoughts, everything. The centerpiece of it, if you like, is that you are willing to sacrifice yourself for your fatherland.
Indoctrination into the Nazi faith, with Hitler as God, began early and continued into adulthood. Adolf Hitler is our savior, our hero. He is the noblest being in the whole wide world. For Hitler we live. For Hitler we die. Hitler is our Lord. In 1933, the party took over all Germany's youth organizations. For girls, the compulsory organization was the League of German Maids, where they were taught self-sacrifice, to marry young, and that their bodies belonged to the nation. Ten-year-old boys became members of the Organization of Young German People. At 14, they joined the Hitler Youth, and at 18, the Nazi Party. At each stage, they were taught the Nazi creed of sacred blood rituals, racial superiority, and total allegiance to Hitler, even to the death.
I was in the Hitler Youth until I was 18. We were being taught, and I believed in it, that it was great to fight for our country, and if necessary, to die for our country.
This film shows one way the Nazis instilled this ideal. A war hero visits a Hitler youth camp.
It was great to be told that you belong to the greatest race, the greatest nation on earth. I thought that because I was a German, that German blood was running through my vein, that made me superior to all the others.
Hitler stated, "I want to see again in the eyes of youth the gleam of the beast of prey." The Hitler Youth chanted a song of death.
We are rising up to face storms of battle. A hero's death is our right. In other words, saying that a 17-year-old would be imbued with a notion that he can claim the right, it must be given to him to lay down his life to die for Führer and fatherland. You are nothing, your nation, your race is everything.
At 18, cadets surrendered themselves to the Führer when they took a sacred oath.
Ich schwöre, I swear, and we all had to repeat it, had to have our hands, our fingers in the air, to serve Führer, Volk and Fatherland, to serve Führer, Volk and Fatherland, like a big rumble around the place, to the last drop of our blood, to the last drop of our blood.
At the core of every German's indoctrination was Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. In it, he outlined the philosophy of the plans for a 1,000-year Nazi reign. Mein Kampf became the Nazi Bible.
I thought it was the greatest book ever written. The Bible is nothing as compared with that. And I still can quote from it now. And I mean, I've read it more than 60 years ago.
In conjunction with Mein Kampf, the principles of the blood religion began to form the basis of Nazi policy. Forced sterilization laws were enacted. Even Aryans were investigated for hereditary diseases. Ailments ranging from tuberculosis and epilepsy to alcoholism and depression were cause for automatic sterilization. Over 400,000 Germans suffered this fate. Hitler rationalized. The demand that defective people be prevented from propagating equally defective offspring is a demand of clearest reason, and if systematically executed, represents the most humane act of mankind. Children with health problems were registered at birth. If their problems persisted, Nazi doctors would secretly administer lethal injections, telling their parents they died of natural causes. A euthanasia program was instituted for the mentally and physically impaired. Propaganda films claimed these were acts of kindness, freeing trapped souls from tormented bodies. By 1935, Hitler had created the blood laws, which made it a criminal act for a pure German to marry or even have sex with a Jew. And German Jews were stripped of their rights as citizens. But the worst was still to come. Purifying the Aryan bloodline was only half of Hitler's demonic plan. To finally clear the way for the last stage of human evolution and assure the coming of the Aryan millennium, the Nazis felt that one obstacle remained: the very existence of non-Aryans.
So you began by sterilizing them. You then found that this was too slow, and you ended by murdering them in gas chambers, which was quick and efficient and cheap.
Hitler wrote, "The gravest and most ruthless decisions will have to be made, a barbaric measure for the unfortunate who is struck by it, but a blessing for his fellow man and posterity. The passing pain of a century can and will redeem millenniums from sufferings." The idea that the few should be sacrificed for the good of the many extended even to Hitler's SA, the stormtroopers. Eventually, the SA, who were among Hitler's first supporters, became an obstacle, one that he had no qualms about removing.
Without the SA, probably he would not have come to power because people were afraid of the SA. They were rowdies and street fighters. They broke up demonstrations and they protected their own big meetings.